Hello students! As promised, I will be giving you a short course on the Hematology 2 in preparation for our final exam. As we all know, cover to cover ang exam, so we will cover most of the must-knows on the topics about Hematology 2. Recall natin yung hemostatic mechanisms. So, hemostasis basically means inhibition of bleeding. Hemo means blood. Stasis means to stop. So, we have two general mechanism. Unang-una is the primary hemostasis. The primary hemostasis includes number 1, vasoconstriction. So, wag tayong magpapalito in bleeding events, vasoconstriction yung first step. Pero in inflammation, vasodilation. The next few processes involves the platelet itself. So, anong unang gagawin ng platelet? It is to adhere to the damaged blood vessel. Next, platelet activation. Anong ma-activate? Yung mga proteins, no? From the inactivated from going to the active form. The next, platelet secretion, wherein the granules that supposedly for hemostasis, no, masisecrete out of the platelets. Then after that, magpe-platelet aggregation. So magkakaroon ng binding with all other platelet na dumating dun sa area of bleeding. And the final product of primary hemostasis is your platelet plug. Next mechanism is the secondary hemostasis, and this involves the roles of your coagulation factors. Meron tayong tatlong roles, 'di ba? Meron tayong for intrinsic pathway, extrinsic pathway, and common pathway. And then, ang end product ng secondary hemostasis is the stable fibrin clot. So, punta naman tayo sa platelets. It has three major functions. First, to preserve the vascular integrity by producing a lot of compounds that has a role in vascular integrity. Next, it can participate in secondary hemostasis. Remember, may mga content yung granules niya that has a major role in secondary hemostasis. Lalong-lalo na ang calcium, which is a content of your, anong tawag dito? Dense granules. And then lastly, it forms a platelet plug, which is the final product of your primary hemostasis. To arrive for this three major function, meron tayong special feature of the platelets. Number 1 is it undergoes viscous metamorphosis. Anong ibig sabihin nito? From the stagnant or inactive form na spherical, okay, or discoid in shape, magiging, ano tawag dito, magkakaroon siya ng hair-like structure which can help with the formation of platelet plug. Okay, next naman is adhesiveness. So, didiscuss natin mamaya no, yung mga important compounds that may affect the platelet adhesiveness. And meron din mga sakit, no, disorders that affect the platelet adhesion. Same goes with the aggregation. Okay. So, we have a special feature of dito sa right side na to. Yung especially yung size. Okay, we have an average size of 1 to 4 micrometer. So much more smaller than your RBC. To compute for the platelet size, we have this parameter called mean platelet volume, which has a normal value of 6.8 to 10.2 femtoliters. And in this parameter, you can arrive if you have macrothrombocytes or microthrombocytes. Macrothrombocytes means you have big platelets. Pag micro, you have small platelets. Ano-ano yung mga condition that will lead to this type of thrombocytes? Kapag big platelets, you may have Bernard-Soulier, gray platelet, or May-Heglin anomaly. Sa microthrombocytes naman, may mga condition na can eventually result to small thrombocytes. These are as follows: Wiskott-Aldrich syndrome, TAR syndrome, and torch infections. So, ang ibig sabihin ng TAR syndrome is thrombocytopenia absent radius syndrome. So, mababa ang platelets mo at the same time, absent yung bone mo na tinatawag natin radius na nasa may upper extremity natin, nasa kamay natin. No? And torch infection naman, torch stands for toxoplasmosis, other infections, rubella, CMV, cytomegalovirus, and herpes simplex infection. So let's proceed now with thrombopoiesis or megakaryopoiesis. The maturation time for platelets is supposedly 5 days. No? Ganyang kabilis yung turnover ng platelets natin. How about yung lifespan? So, iba-iba yung sinasabi ng mga books natin, no? According to Rodax, ang sabi is 7 to 10. Henry's naman, ang sabi 8 to 11. Brown's, 9 to 12. So, therefore, no, i-average natin na 7 to 12 yung buhay ng platelets sa bloodstream. And the hormone, no, responsible for the production of your platelet is thrombopoietin, which can be produced by either your liver, no, primarily your liver, and the small amounts coming from the kidneys. And then meron tayong special process na only in platelets can be found. Ito yung endomitosis, which is the nuclear division without cytoplasmic division. Dumadami yung nucleus pero yung mismong cell hindi dumadami dahil walang cytoplasmic division. And therefore, with this process, ang isang megakaryocyte can produce a lot of platelets, up to 2,000 to 4,000 platelets per cell. And saan naman dinadala itong mga cell na to? Hindi lahat nakikita sa bloodstream. 1/3 makikita sa spleen, 2/3 naman makikita sa bloodstream. Balikan natin yung mga stages ng megakaryopoiesis. The youngest is megakaryoblast. Next is pro-megakaryocyte. Next is megakaryocyte. Next, meta-megakaryocyte. And lastly, your platelets or thrombocyte. In terms of nucleus, no, parami ng parami yan. So, single lang sa megakaryoblast. Pro-megakaryocyte has 2. Megakaryocyte has 3. Meta-megakaryocyte has more than or equal to 4. Sa presence of naman ng granules, only megakaryoblast has absent granules. Ang start ng granules natin is pro-megakaryocyte. And sa brown, may other name itong first 3 stages natin. MK1, MK2, MK3. MK1 si megakaryoblast, MK2 si pro-megakaryocyte, and MK3 si megakaryocyte. And ito yung basis of the endomitosis. According to Brown, okay, ang megakaryoblast, dito nasa-start si endomitosis. Pro-megakaryocyte, this is the last stage na merong endomitosis. Sa megakaryocyte, wala na. Tapos na ang part ng endomitosis according to Brown. Ito ang classification of the stages. So, lalahanin natin kanina, no? Ang pinakabata is megakaryocyte, promegakaryocyte, and megakaryocyte. So, sa brown, ito ang MK1, MK2, and MK3. So, sa tatlong ito, kailan magsa-start ang granules natin? Sa MK2 or promegakaryocyte. Okay. According to structure naman tayo. So, we can classify the structure according to the physical appearance under microscope and the functionality, no? According to their role in platelets. Sa microscopic structure naman, we can identify the chromomere and hyalomere. Chromomere is yung gitnang part, which is the granular part, yung nagtitake up ng stain. Si hyalomere naman, yung hindi yung nagtitake up ng stain. So, wala siyang kulay under microscope and it is considered as non-granular. According to functional zones naman, we have 4. Peripheral zone, Solgal zone, membranous system, and organelle zone. So, tingnan natin isa-isa yan. So, peripheral zone muna tayo. Dito makikita yung mga receptors natin or what we call the glycoprotein receptors. So, ito yung mga yan. So, we have receptor for von Willebrand factor which is glycoprotein 1B95. 2B3A is for fibrinogen and 5A is for thrombin. The next zone is Solgal zone. Dito naman, it maintains the shape of the platelets. Okay? So, we have two major cell structure that can maintain the shape of the platelet. We have microfilaments and microtubules. Sa microfilaments, meron specialized protein called actinomycin or in other books, thrombostenin. Magkaparehas lang tong dalawang ito. And this two protein is responsible for the formation of the clot retraction. Kapag pinag-uusapan natin ang clot retraction, so ganito yan, no? Kapag naka-standby lang yung blood sa ating test tube, no? Eventually magpo-form yan ng clot. And kung mapapansin nyo, as it stored in a longer period of time, mas lumiliit yung clot formation. So, ito yung tinatawag nating clot retraction. Next part is membranous system. So, this system is composed of your dense tubular system and open canalicular system. Ano ang differences nung dalawa? Their function. Sa dense tubular system, it serves as the site for the arachidonic acid metabolism. Ito yung involved or affected molecule sa intake natin ng aspirin. So, magsingit lang ako ng another diagram to to picture out the effects of aspirin. So, aspirin again inhibits your cyclooxygenase. So, cyclooxygenase, ang ating naming dito is COX, no? We have two types, COX-1 and COX-2. COX-1 ang specific for your thromboxane A2. And hindi lang COX-1 ang naapektuhan niya, no? Yung aspirin also targets your COX-2. So, ang dami niyang na-prevent or na-inhibit na mga bodily function. So, madaming effects or bad effects ang aspirin. Not only for the function of the platelet, but also the following, your gastrointestinal tract function, kidneys, yung mga yan. Okay? So, balik tayo sa slide na to. No? Next is the open canalicular system. Dito naman, ni-release yung granules natin. Saan ba makikita yung granules na to? Doon sa organelle zone. So sa organelle zone, may makikita tayong two groups of granules. We have alpha granules and dense granules. Lundag lang ako kay dense granules kasi mas easy silang tandaan. Ang tatandaan natin yung mnemonics na CAPAS. C-A-P-A-S. So ano yung mga yan? C is calcium, A is ADP, P is pyrophosphate, A is ATP, and S serotonin. The rest of the granules ay pinoproduce naman ng alpha granules. So kapag medyo weird yung mga names, no? Ibig sabihin belong sila sa alpha granules. And the rest, no, is dense granules kapag ito na yung nasa choices. So, balikan nga ulit natin yung mga processes. Discuss natin yung mga molecules responsible for initiating this primary hemostasis mechanism. Unahin natin yung vasoconstriction. It is initiated by two molecules, serotonin and thromboxane A2. Sunod naman, dun tayo sa mga platelet proper. Diba, ang sequence, correct sequence of the processes are adhesion, activation, secretion, and aggregation. Balik tayo kay adhesion. Sino ang primary chemical for this? It is the von Willebrand factor. Si von Willebrand factor, dagdag ko lang, ang receptor niya is what is called your glycoprotein 1B95. Okay? Huwag natin kakalimutan kasi may another glycoprotein receptor pa tayong aaralin. So sa activation naman, balik ulit tayo no kay thromboxane A2 and PAF which stands for platelet activating factor. Platelet secretion naman, ang involved dyan ay mga granules natin. Balikan natin ulit kay dense granules. Dense granules, ang kanyang mga molecules ay CAPAS. Calcium, ADP, pyrophosphate, ATP, and serotonin. Lastly, your platelet aggregation. No? Ang ginagamit naman dyan ay yung fibrinogen using the receptor called glycoprotein 2B3A. So, meron pa tayong ibang ginagamit na chemicals for this in vivo or inside our body. So, ano yung mga yan? Collagen, ADP, and epinephrine. Meron din tayong pwedeng gamitin outside the body. Pwede rin si collagen, ADP, and epinephrine. Idagdag lang natin dyan si ristocetin. Now, after discussing the mechanisms of primary hemostasis, paano naman natin sila i-assess? Using laboratory tests. So, meron tayong group of tests focusing on primary hemostasis. Unahin natin, syempre, yung platelets, no? Platelet studies. Unahin natin si platelet count. Ano nga ulit ang reference range based on RODAX? So, sabi sa RODAX, 150 to 450 times 10 raised to the 9 power per liter of blood. Ito yung SI unit. Kapag ang gagamitin naman natin ay traditional unit, dapat naka per cubic millimeter or per microliter. Okay, ano ang critical value na hinahanap natin sa resulta ng mga pasyente? We begin to investigate if there is a significant bleeding, no, sa mga organs, if ang platelet count niya is less than 60 times 10 raised to the 9 power per liter of blood. And the most serious site of bleeding is of course sa brain or sa CNS sa system na yon, no? Ang pinakadelikado diyan is yung intracranial or inside the brain na bleeding. So we have two general methods for platelet count. Meron tayong indirect method. So bakit siya tinawag na indirect method? Kasi meron tayong platelet count on the basis of the RBC count. So ito yung formula niya, no? Number of platelets seen under microscope times RBC count over 1,000 na constant value. Okay? Next naman, direct methods. So sa direct methods, so we make use of hemocytometry. Okay? Hindi natin kailangan ng RBC count, no? So kaya tinawag siya direct methods. So we have three methods of platelet count, no? Meron tayong Rees and Ecker and Guy and Lick. Itong dalawang ito, we make use of a simple light microscope na ginagamit natin sa laboratory natin sa school. Ang third naman, medyo higher type of microscope siya, no? Phase contrast microscope. It is called your Becker Cronkite. So bakit kailangan ng phase contrast? Kasi ang platelets natin, no, very refractile, no, in nature. So minsan nami-miss niyo siya nami-miss niyo yung pagbilang ng mga cells na to using a simple light microscope. Sa phase contrast naka-cancel out yung refractile nature ng platelets. Kaya si Becker Cronkite ang reference method for platelet count. Now, aside sa platelet count, we can also assess the platelet function, no? Pwede tayong mag-assess ng platelet adhesiveness and platelet aggregation. Punta tayo sa platelet adhesiveness or also known as your glass bead retention test. Sa glass bead retention test, gagamit ka ng test tube which is made of glass, no, and may mga beads sa loob. So kung gaano karaming platelets na dumikit dun sa mga beads, yun yung gagamitin or i-report natin dun sa results form. And usually ginagamit siya to assess, no, to screen for patients having the von Willebrand disease. Kung naalala nyo kanina, the platelet adhesion is initiated by von Willebrand factor using your glycoprotein 1B9 and 5. Now, punta naman tayo sa platelet aggregation. We make use of molecules that initiate platelet aggregation. So, in vitro or outside the body, we make use of these chemicals or reagents, no? Pwede kang gumamit ng Restositine, ADP, collagen, and epinephrine. Ang gagamitin nating mnemonics dyan ay yung RACE mnemonics, no? R is Restositine, A is ADP, collagen, C, and E is epinephrine. So, lahat ng yan pwede mo gamitin outside the body. Pero sa loob ng katawan natin, no, ang aggregation is initiated by your fibrinogen and also your ADP, collagen, and epinephrine. So, paano natin ginagawa yung test na to? So, we make use of a platelet-rich plasma specimen. So, paano naman tayo nagpa-prepare ng PRP or platelet-rich plasma? We centrifuge the specimen at 200, no, mas mabagal na ikot, centrifugal force for 10 minutes. Next test is a test of primary and secondary hemostasis, the clot retraction time. Bakit siya dalawa? Kasi on the basis of the primary hemostasis, kaya natin mag-assess ng platelets, while on the secondary hemostasis naman, yung fibrinogen and other clotting factor, cofactors such as your calcium. So, yung abnormal CRT or yung clinical significance ng CRT, pwede natin gamitin yan to screen for patients having thrombocytopenia, low or abnormal fibrinogen, or may mga abnormal protein sila called your multiple myeloma. And kapag may problem tayo with basically your fibrinogen, no, dun sa platelet aggregation such as in Lanzmann's thrombocythemia. So we have three methods. Meron tayong method na gumagamit ng castor oil is the Hirschbeck method, no? Tandaan nyo lang kapag castor oil, no, mahirap hanapin, so mahirap din ang spelling. Yun lang ang aking mnemonics dyan. And then next naman, si Stefanini. So kapag meron tayong dumodobling ano ba tawag doon? Syllable or words or letters kasi paulit-ulit natin siyang babasahin. Mag-read tayo ng specimen natin at after 1 hour, 2 hours, 16 hours, and so on. So, paulit-ulit yung pagbabasa ng clot retraction time. Si McFarlane naman gumagamit ng formula. Okay? Yung volume of serum over the total volume of the specimen and kailangan naka-percentage, no? So, i-multiply mo siya by 100. So, ganyan ko lang siya minememorize, no? Kung anong klaseng method sila. Okay, other methods for primary hemostasis. Itong dalawang method na to, kaya nyo mag-assess ng both platelets and vessels, which are part ng ating primary hemostasis pa rin. So, puntahan muna natin si bleeding time. Bleeding time, kaya siya primary hemostasis kasi una, it can be affected by your platelet count, usually lower than 100, yung platelet count doon na nag-umpisa mag-decrease or mag-prolong yung ating bleeding time. Next naman, deficiency of your von Willebrand factor. Isa siya sa mga molecules na nire-release ng ating mga endothelial cells from the blood vessels. So, kapag may problem sa blood vessels, magkakaroon ka rin ng problem with von Willebrand. And third, syempre pag vessels, yung fragility or integrity ng capillaries. Kapag pangit or medyo fragile yung mga capillaries or blood vessels natin, prolong din si bleeding time. So we have three basic methods. Meron tayong Duke method, IV method, and template method. So si Duke method, ang ginagamit natin dyan ay fingertip most of the time, hindi madalas si earlobe, and normal value 2 to 4 minutes. IV method naman, kailangan ng sphygmomanometer, and ang pressure na ginagamit natin is at 40 mm mercury. Usually, ang natin dyan, very wide yung ating reference range, from 1 to 9 minutes. And then next naman, si template bleeding or ang other name niya sa ibang references, surgical method or simplate method. We make use of a knife na merong standardized depth ng scalpel niya, very standardized, mas standardized pa siya kaysa dun sa lancet na ginagamit natin sa Duke and IV. So the normal value ranges from 2 to 9 minutes. Last, ang next method natin is the capillary resistance test or also known as your tourniquet test or Rumpel lead test. So gumagamit tayo again ng sphygmomanometer. Kailangan ang pressure niya is at 100 mm mercury. Magkaiba sila kay IV. Si IV mas maikli or mas mababa yung pressure, 40 mm mercury. Si capillary resistance test, 100 mm mercury. And the normal, usually na check natin is the number of petechial appearance or petechial rashes. The normal should be the grade 1 plus, 1 plus. So it ranges from 0 to 10 petechial rash. Lastly, your purpura. Purpura is purplish in color and typically greater than 3 mm or more than 1 cm din. Okay? And yung difference between purpura and ecchymosis is that purpura, dumadami yan. Akala mo nagmumukha silang rashes na malalaki. Okay, and it also occurs in mucous membrane and skin na katulad ni petechiae. Si ecchymosis, pwede single spot lang yan. Si purpura, madami. So mamaya papakita natin yung mga conditions presenting this kind of symptom or signs. So, since napag-usapan natin yung purpura, no, discuss natin yung classic example ng mga patients presenting with purpura. No? Ang tawag doon ay Hinoch-Schönlein lane purpura or also known as allergic purpura, anaphylactoid purpura, or purpura rheumatica. Kaya tinawag na allergic or anaphylactoid or rheumatica, no? Meron kasing problem with the immune system. No? Akala nila it is caused by an allergen. Kasi yung pag binayopsi natin yung skin nila, madaming immunoglobulin A deposition na usually seen in anaphylaxis or allergic reactions. No? Kaya tinawag siyang anaphylactoid. No? Hindi talaga siya anaphylactic reaction, mukha lang siyang ganon. Okay? The age group affected by this condition ranges from 2 to 20 years old. No? Bata talaga yung affected dito. And the usual manifestation of these patients, no, involves palpable purpura. Ibig sabihin lang nun, itong mga rashes na to, kapag kinapa mo, no, meron silang, pwede mo silang kapain kahit madilim. Meron tayong mga bumps, no, kaya tinawag na palpable. May mga bumps, mafe-feel mo yung mga rashes na yan, no. Arthralgia, anong ibig sabihin ng arthralgia? Pain dun sa ating mga joints, lalong-lalo na dun sa tuhod nila. And then next, abdominal pain, no? Present bleeding kasi nila, yung mga bleeding symptoms nila may present as abdominal pain o stomach pain. And then lastly, nephritis, namamaga yung mga nephrons sa kidney. But the universal sign for Hinoch-Schönlein lane purpura, pakibilugan si palpable purpura. Let us explore also other disorders of blood vessels. So, itong 5 na to, no, the usual disorders discussed in review centers, and I hope madala natin to hanggang gumraduate tayo, no? So, I tabulated the main pathophysiology and their manifestation. So, unahin natin si Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Paki-check lang, no, it lacks your peptidase. Si peptidase kasi, no, it is an important enzyme which converts your procollagen, which is an inactive form, to its active form called your collagen. And collagen, it is an important molecule for the vascular integrity. Okay? Si Pseudosantoma elasticum, tingnan natin yung pangalan, Pseudosantoma. So, meron tayong makikitang mga thickened layer of your blood vessels. So, hindi talaga siya makapal due to its normal layer, but it is thick because of the fibroblast creating fibers, no? And yung fibers na to, it is made up of elastic fibers, kaya elasticum, no? So, hindi, yung pagkapal ng blood vessel na to, it is detrimental with its the vascular function kasi nagiging stiff yung blood vessels. Third naman, scurvy. Si scurvy naman, it is a condition wherein your vitamin C is deficient. And vitamin C is also needed for collagen synthesis naman, no? And ang primary presentation ng mga patient na may scurvy is bleeding gums na hindi na-trigger ng anything. Halimbawa, nagtututbrush kayo and nag-bleed siya, hindi that does not mean na may scurvy kayo. It is spontaneous. Kahit wala kayong nginunguya or kinakalikot sa gums nyo, kusa na lang yan nagbi-bleed. Okay, next naman, senile purpura. Senile means old. So, makikita mo yan sa mga old patients. So, sa mga old patients, usually, makikita natin na poor na yung kanilang collagen and elastin production. Kaya, medyo hindi na ganun kaganda yung integrity ng blood vessels nila. And lastly naman, ito naman, makikita mo sila sa mga bata kasi hereditary, no, namamana. Kaya makikita mo pa lang yan since baby pa lang ang patient. So, ano ang buong name niya? No? Hereditary hemorrhagic telangiectasia, or also known as your Osler-Weber-Rendu disease. So, sa mga patient na to, no, sobrang nipis naman ng kanilang blood vessel kasi yung layer supposedly containing your smooth muscle is absent. And this is the most common inherited vascular disorder. Okay, tapos na tayo sa mga blood vessel disorders. Sa disorders naman tayo ng platelet count. Unahin natin yung low platelet count or thrombocytopenia. So we have 5 mechanisms at which your platelet count is decreased, no? So unahin natin syempre yung decreased production of platelet count brought about by number 1, aplastic anemia. Again, no, A means absence, plasia means production. And yung aplastic anemia, no, hindi lang platelets ang affected, pati na rin si RBC and WBC. So malamang ang main problem natin diyan ay yung bone marrow. So there are several conditions, no, affecting your bone marrow, and also medications, yung mga kanilang mga side effects, no, can cause a bone marrow abnormal function. Okay? Next naman, yung thrombopoietic disorders. May problem tayo with the maturation of thrombocytes, no, from yung any problem of your megakaryocytopoiesis. Okay? Next, increased loss or destruction by immune cause. Mayroon tayong problema sa immune system. Unahin natin si DIC or disseminated intravascular coagulopathy. So in DIC, no, nagkakaroon tayo ng reaction, no, towards infection or any inflammation. So one of the reaction is the overuse of platelets. Kapag gamit na gamit yung platelets mo, madali na yan masira. Now in ITP naman which stands for immune thrombocytopenic purpura. Dati ang pangalan niya is idiopathic. Idiopathic means unknown. Dati hindi alam kung anong nagkakos ng ITP. Ngayon, na-discover na meron tayong mga antibodies dito sa mga pasyenteng may ITP, no? May antibodies sila against your platelets. So, nadi-destroy si platelets. Okay? Next naman yung mga drug-induced cause. So, prominent example dyan is heparin. So, didiscuss natin later, no, paano ba nadi-destroy ng heparin ang mga platelets natin. Next naman, PTP. PTP is the post-transfusion purpura. So, I hope nadaanan nyo to sa blood bank kasi ang mechanism niyan is that yung donor, meron siyang kakaibang protein sa platelet niya, and si recipient nag-react towards that. So, i-destroy niya yung donor platelets at the same time, yung kanyang platelets din as well. So, nagkakaroon ng thrombocytopenia. Next naman ay loss or destruction by non-immune cause. So, walang kinalaman ang mga antibodies. Okay? So, example na mga yan ay yung HELP syndrome, TTP, and HUS. HELP stands for hemolysis, yung H. Yung EL, elevated liver enzymes. Yung LP is low platelets. Discuss natin yan in a while. And then, yung next naman is halos magkapareha si TTP and HUS. Ano ibig sabihin ng TTP? Thrombotic, thrombocytopenic purpura. Prone ka na sa thrombosis, pero mababa ang platelet count mo sa TTP. Sa HUS naman, hemolytic uremic syndrome. Hemolytic, so parang walang kinalaman ang platelets doon, more on RBC, right? Pero, sa totoo lang, halos pareha sila ng presentation. Mamaya di-discuss natin, no? Next naman, abnormal distribution of platelets. Kung naalala niyo yung rule na 2/3, 1/3, 2/3 nasa bloodstream, 1/3 nasa spleen. Okay? Example niyan, dilutional loss. Ano ibig sabihin ng dilutional loss? Napasobra tayo ng blood products sa pasyente. Okay? So, sobrang daming, minsan no, sobrang daming plasma, okay? So, nagkakaroon ng dilution ng mga cells dun sa bloodstream, kaya ang tawag is dilutional loss. Next naman, hypersplenism. Overactive ang ating spleen, no? Kain siya ng kain ng platelets and other cells. Splenomegaly naman, no? Ang hypersplenism may lead to enlargement of your spleen. Or, in other cases, wala namang hyperactivity ang spleen, namamaga lang siya ng kusa. So, pwedeng mangyari yon. So, yung pamamaga ng spleen, no, pwede siyang mag-catch ng maraming platelets as well. Next, artifactual thrombocytopenia. Sa artifactual thrombocytopenia, no, pwede tayo dyan mag-rely on the fact na mali yung blood specimen collection such as yung EDTA. EDTA ang ginamit mo for platelet count. So, ano ulit ang problem natin with EDTA? Pwede tayo magkaroon ng platelet clumping, platelet satellitism, and platelet swelling as well. So, si EDTA ay prone sa pseudo-thrombocytopenia. Ibig sabihin, it is a false report of low platelets. Kasi nga, ito yung mga effects niya. Decreased production, i-divide natin into 3, congenital, acquired, and idiopathic. Congenital means meron tayong hereditary cause, no? May genetic mutation. Unahin natin si Fanconi's anemia. In Fanconi's anemia, we have aplastic anemia na may physical malformation, lalo na sa face, no? Merong cleft palate, ganyan. Tag dito, merong malformation dun sa skull, okay? Kakaroon ng meron ding mga physical malformation sa upper and lower limbs. Okay, next is cancer susceptibility. Mapapansin mo sa mga may Fanconi's anemia, meron ng blood cancer, may liver cancer, may brain cancer. Okay? So, yan, yung triad na to, it would point to your Fanconi's anemia. Next are also congenital cause of thrombocytopenia. Your WAS or Wiskott-Aldrich syndrome and May-Heglin anomaly. So, didiscuss natin ito mamaya, no, sa next few slides. In acquired decreased production, it is almost always caused by treatment or therapy. No? Sa mga may cancer, it is caused by chemotherapy and radiation therapy. Sa mga nag-take ng chloramphenicol is actually a treatment used for salmonella infection, salmonella typhi, or in typhoid fever. Pero hindi na yun masyadong ginagamit because chloramphenicol may cause aplastic anemia. And the next, benzene, which is a component of your gasoline. Okay? Benzene also causes aplastic anemia. And lastly, your idiopathic, which is most common. Ano ibig sabihin ng idiopathic? Idiopathic means unknown etiology. No? Hindi pa nalalaman or wala pa talagang theory behind the decreased production. So, this is actually the most common mechanism ng decreased production of your platelets. DIC or disseminated intravascular coagulopathy. So this is not a final disease, no? This is just a part of a bigger problem. Okay? Ano ang meron sa DIC? So, unang-una, magkakaroon ng destruction muna ng mga blood vessel via immune mechanism. And then, yung destruction ng vessels na yon, it will activate the coagulation pathway. So, una muna, syempre gagawa ng platelet plug. So, mauubos muna si platelets. And then, after that, mauubos din yung mga coagulation factors mo dahil extensive yung damage sa mga vessels So, extensive din yung consumption mo ng platelets and at the same time, ng coagulation factors. Kaya ang tawag din natin doon sa pangalan niya is disseminated intravascular coagulopathy dahil nga mayroon din tayong problem dun sa coagulation pathway. And this DIC, sabi nga kanina, no, it is a part of a bigger problem. So, anong mga disease or condition na associated with DIC? Unang-una dyan, yung ating mga hemorrhagic viral syndromes na na-discuss natin kanina, right? Yung dengue virus, yellow fever, and Ebola. And actually, DIC is the most common cause. MCC is most common cause, okay? Most common cause of death in dengue hemorrhagic syndrome. No, dito sila namamatay actually. Dahil, yun nga, extensive na yung pagkaubos ng platelets and coagulation, hindi na nakokontrol yung bleeding and therefore, matindi na yung blood loss, so doon sila namamatay. Okay? Next naman is gram-negative bacterial infection. Kung maalala ninyo, no, back in your bacte, gram-negative bacteria carries what type of toxin? Your endotoxin. And this endotoxin will activate this massive destruction of your vessels, imitating DIC. Okay, so implicated din ang DIC in endotoxemia. Next naman, sa mga pregnant women, no, madalas nagkakaroon ng DIC, lalong-lalo na sa mga cases with pre-eclampsia. Ay, ano ulit ang pre-eclampsia? Ito yung mga pregnant women na nag-release ng proteins through their urine. So, malaking problem ang proteinuria sa pregnant women. Next naman, yung microangiopathic hemolytic anemia. Ano ulit ang mga example natin dito? Ito yung mga TTP or thrombotic thrombocytopenic purpura and your HUS or hemolytic uremic syndrome. So mamaya i-discuss natin na bakit implicated si DIC dun sa dalawang condition na yon. And lastly, yung ipapatake note ko sa inyo is a type of leukemia wherein DIC is involved. This is the M3 type of AML or acute myelogenous leukemia type M3. In WHO or FAB classification, yung French-American-British classification, ang ibig sabihin ng M3 is acute promyelocytic leukemia. So, isa yan sa mga cause of death ng mga may ganitong type of leukemia. To simplify the process of disseminated intravascular coagulation. So, ganito nangyayari, no? In this patients, nagkakaroon ng mas maraming formation of clots rather than the breakdown of clots. So, walang balance. Okay? Walang homeostasis dun sa clot formation. Anong ibig sabihin ngayon ng maraming clot formation? Okay? So, number one, dahil nga widespread yung clotting, nagkakaroon ng thrombus or obstruction dun sa ating mga vessels. Pag nagkaroon ng ganitong obstruction, walang blood flow na pupunta sa mga organs causing ischemia or loss of blood supply and oxygenation. So, namamatay yung mga organs ng mga pasyenteng suffering from DIC. Next naman, dahil nga madami or extensive yung vessel injury, extensive din ang clot formation through depletion, no, of the clotting factors. Pag naubos natin lahat ng clotting factors at the same time the platelets as well, no, nagkakaroon na ng bleeding. So hindi na makasabay yung injury dun sa clot formation or dun sa loss of clotting factors. So two ways sila namamatay, no, through ischemia and extensive bleeding. Next, must know ito, no, how to analyze DIC using the laboratory test. So as a screening test, ito yung usual ino-order. No? Platelet count is expected to be low dahil nga doon sa platelet consumption. PBS will show schistocytes. Schistocytes are RBC that's shaped as parang mga helmet cells. Okay? Bleeding time, clotting time, PT, and PTT are all prolonged. Bleeding time is prolonged dahil nasisira niya yung mga vessels. So, therefore, yung vascular integrity is damaged. Therefore, prolong ang bleeding time. So, clotting time, PT, and PTT are all prolonged dahil na-consume mo na yung iyong mga clotting factors. So, ibig sabihin, mas prolong ang clot formation. As confirmatory, no, halimbawa, hindi ka pa rin sure kung nagdi-DIC yung pasyente mo, you can do D-dimer levels. D-dimer naman is actually final product of your fibrinolysis. So, discuss natin yan mamaya. So, I have said a while ago, D-dimer is one of the final products of fibrin degradation. So, based in this diagram, no, halimbawa, nabuo na yung platelet plug, nagkaroon ng coagulation process, nabuo ang stable fibrin. Ang stable fibrin, hindi yan magtatagal. No? Kailangan niya ma-degrade eventually. Okay? Kasi clot yan. No? Dapat ma-maintain natin as liquid yung ating blood. So, itong solid component na to, na clot, must undergo fibrinolysis with the use of the plasminogen-plasmin complex. So, plasmin, i-degrade niya yung fibrin into simpler products. And one of the products is actually D-dimer. And yung D-dimer is madaling ma-detect through laboratory testing. So, bakit ito ginagamit in DIC? So, yun nga, ang sabi ko nga, balik tayo dun sa ating diagram a while ago. Dahil mas maraming clot na na-form during DIC, mas marami ka rin ma-appreciate na D-dimer sa blood circulation ng pasyente. Kaya definitive or confirmatory test talaga ang D-dimer in cases of DIC. Next condition is ITP. ITP, previously, no, ang dating meaning niyan is idiopathic thrombocytopenic purpura. And again, idiopathic means unknown etiology. So, hindi pa natin alam before. So, ngayon, alam na, no? Nung college student pa lang ako, idiopathic pa rin ang pangalan niya. Pero nung after 2 to 3 years, immune na. So, dahil na-establish na ang autoantibodies against platelets is the one causing the thrombocytopenia in patients with ITP. And ITP is the most common cause, MCC, most common cause of thrombocytopenia among children. Kasi sila yung prone sa mga viral infections such as yung URTI or upper respiratory tract infection, gastrointestinal tract infection, your other viruses, your infectious mononucleosis or yung kissing disease, measles, chickenpox, and rubella, or even walang viral infection after lang ng vaccination gamit ng live virus, prone sa ITP yung mga yan. Next, the most common cause of drug-induced thrombocytopenia is heparin. And ang condition ngayon, if ever si heparin, yung primary suspect ng thrombocytopenia is yung HIT natin, no? HIT means heparin-induced thrombocytopenia. In other books, si HIT is also known as the white clot syndrome. So, paano nangyayari yan? Si heparin, didikit kay platelet through the receptor called your platelet factor 4. Ngayon yung binding na to will create an antibody, no? Akala kasi ng katawan natin, no, foreign yung binding na yon, no? Bagong molecule. So kailangan niyang targetin, sisirain niya. Pero ang problem dito, yung mga kahit hindi nag-bind doon yung other platelets natin, sisirain din niya yung mga yon, no? Yung mga normal platelets, yung walang heparin bound na PF4. Okay? So, sisirain niya lahat ng platelets. So, hence, it will cause the low platelet count. So, recently, inaba na naman yung pangalan ng heparin-induced thrombocytopenia. Nilagyan ng extra T, no? HITT na. No? Heparin-induced thrombocytopenia with thrombosis. Bleeder ka na, clot former ka pa, no? Bleeder kasi nga nauubos si platelets by the production of the antibodies targeting platelets bound with heparin and also the normal platelets. Now the clot former, so paano na yan nangyayari? Ang clot forming side effect niya is that nagkakaroon ng resistance dun sa gamot na heparin. Kasi ano ba ang mechanism of action ng heparin? Si heparin will activate the antithrombin to inhibit, kaya nga antithrombin to inhibit thrombin. Ngayon, kung nagkakaroon ng resistance, no, hindi umi-effect si heparin dahil nga nagkakaroon ng overdosage or overtolerance ng katawan, hindi ngayon nagagawa itong mechanism na to. So, instead na ma-activate niya si thrombin, no, it will initiate pa yung thrombin activation causing thrombosis. So, yung UFH, LMWH can cause HIT. Okay? And this side effect, no, nung pinag-aralan ng mga scientists, so nag-develop sila ng panibagong heparin na hindi na nagkakos ng HIT, which is, ito yung newest form, your fondaparinux. So, dito na, wala na tayong ma-appreciate na HIT effect dito sa klase ng gamot na to. Okay? Another dito, information about these types of heparin, no? Dahil nga ang heparin madaming side effect, no, meron tayong monitoring test dito. Ang UFH kailangan ng APTT monitoring, while yung mga newer types of heparin hindi na kailangan. In terms of toxicity, meron naman tayong available na antidote, and this antidote is called protamine sulfate. Ngayon, sino sa kanila yung madalas nagkakos ng toxic effects? So, ang UFH and your LMWH, ito nga yung nagkakos ng HIT, so kailangan nila ng antidote such as yung ating protamine sulfate. While in the newer heparin called fondaparinux, hindi na kailangan. So, mas madaling gamitin ngayon si fondaparinux in our patients. In assessment of HIT, so pwede tayo mag-screening test using platelet count and aggregometry. But for gold standard and reference method, so pag kailangan gamitin in research purposes, so ito yung gold standard na gagamitin, serotonin release assay. HELP syndrome stands for yung H, hemolysis, EL is elevated liver enzyme, LP is low platelet. So para mas madaling tandaan, these are the 3 criteria to diagnose this syndrome. Kailangan may ongoing hemolysis, may presence of elevated liver enzymes, and low platelets. So, paano natin yan i-request sa ating laboratory? To check for hemolysis, you have to check also for the hemoglobin levels, and you have to expect the low levels of hemoglobin. Yung elevated liver enzymes naman natin, pwede ka mag-request na lang ng AST/ALT. And usually, high itong mga to. And then, for the low platelet, syempre platelet count. So, low ang ine-expect mong results. Okay? Therefore, in HELLP syndrome, tatlo lang yung pwede mong i-request. Hemoglobin, AST/ALT, and platelet count. So, balik tayo ulit dito, no? Ang HELLP syndrome is seen in patients with preeclampsia. And preeclampsia, nangyayari yan sa mga buntis na umiihi na kasama ang proteins, which is what you term as proteinuria. Okay? So, anong kasama dito sa preeclampsia spectrum na to? So, unang-unang nangyayari dito is that there is a microvascular injury. Maliliit na blood vessels. And then, kapag extensive na yung mga injury sa mga maliliit na blood vessels, nagkakaroon na tayo ng hemolysis, no? Extravasation of blood from this vascular injury. Kapag pag nagkaroon ng matinding vascular injury, so magre-rescue ang ating mga platelets, pero kung madami na yung mga sites ng blood vessel injury, mauubos ang mga platelets mo. So therefore, low platelets ang expected natin dito. And then, dahil nga hindi na makapag-jive or hindi na makapag-comply yung ating mga platelets dun sa injury, tuloy-tuloy yung hemolysis, nagkakaroon ngayon ng multi-organ microvascular injury. And one of the organs na sensitive sa microvascular injury is your liver. Dahil nga, ang liver is a reservoir of your blood. Okay? So, supposedly, dapat madaming blood doon. Pero, walang pumupunta na blood doon dahil nga pangit yung blood flow dahil dito sa blood vessel injury. So, nagkakaroon ng liver problem called hepatic necrosis. Namamatay yung mga liver cells. Kaya, therefore, ang expected mo na laboratory finding sa liver function test is that it will show elevated liver enzymes. Katulad ng kanina na sinabi ko, AST and ALT is expected to be high in preeclampsia and HELLP syndrome. Okay, next group of conditions that is related to non-immune destruction are these two syndrome. Unang-unahin natin ito, thrombotic thrombocytopenic purpura. Thrombotic thrombocytopenic purpura manifests as microangiopathic hemolytic anemia, no? Naga-anemia ka na. Meron ka pang thrombocytopenia. And from the name itself, meron ka rin purpuric rashes. What is the pathogenesis of TTP? This is due to the deficiency of your ADAMTS13. Ito ay kailangan to activate your clotting factor called von Willebrand factor. So, kapag hindi na-activate si von Willebrand factor, hindi gagana yung coagulation pathway. So, therefore, bleeder ka. So, nagkakaroon ka ng hemolytic anemia. So, and then, yung mga nasisira mong vessels, tinatry i-save ng mga platelets. So, therefore, may platelet consumption. And kapag walang nabubuong platelet plug or stable fibrin, bleeder ka. So, nagkakaroon ng purpuric rashes. Okay? So, next condition naman tayo. Hemolytic uremic syndrome. May hemolytic anemia, microangiopathic hemolytic anemia. So, and then, meron ka rin thrombocytopenia. And uremic. So, uremic means anything about your kidneys, no? Meron tayong acute renal failure. And this HUS is brought about by a bacterial infection, specifically your enterohemorrhagic Escherichia coli or EHEC strain 0157H7. This strain contains or nagdadala siya ng toxin na kamukha ng Shigella. Kaya ang tawag is Shiga toxin. Okay? And this type of toxin is an endotoxin. Okay? So, kaya mas grabe siya, mas fatal, mas severe in destroying blood vessels. So, ano naman yung kanilang pagkakaparehas? They both cause thrombocytopenia through non-immune cause. And this non-immune cause is specifically the microangiopathy. Micro means small, angio means vessels, pathy is a disorder or disease. So, a disease of small blood vessels. So, halimbawa, nasagasaan ka, wag naman sana, no? And kailangan mo ng madaming blood bags. And after that, ang doktor ina-expect na mataas ang CBC or platelet count mo dahil madami nang na-transfuse sa'yo na blood bag. Pero, hindi pa rin tumaas. So, anong nangyari? You might consider a dilutional loss. Okay? Dilutional loss happens in patients who receive massive blood transfusion. Ano ang operational definition ng massive blood transfusion? The patient received 15 to 20 units within 24 hours. No? Ganyan karami blood bags. Pero bakit even though na madaming blood bags, bakit pa rin hindi tumataas ang platelet count? This is due to number 1, ang blood bag ay hindi nakalagay sa room temperature. Diba, ang madalas na storage area ng ating mga whole blood is refrigerated area. So, kailangan para mag-function pa rin ang platelet, kailangan nasa room temp at hindi mag-induce ng platelet clumping. Okay? And another is that the platelet should be in an agitator. No? Kailangan na shake pa rin yung blood kasi prone nga sa platelet clumping yung mga platelets inside the blood bag. And madalas ang mga blood bags sa refrigerator nasa stagnant position lang. So therefore, lahat ng naibibigay sa pasyente nagiging defective or nasisira lang. Next is hypersplenism and splenomegaly. These both condition causes thrombocytopenia. So, halimbawa, no, splenomegaly. Splenomegaly strictly refers to the size, no? Enlargement lang ng spleen. But kapag yung activity ang pinag-uusapan, halimbawa, overactivity, hypersplenism ang better term. These two condition will cause an abnormal pooling. Ano ibig sabihin ng abnormal pooling? Diba ang ating normal distribution of platelets is that 2/3 dapat ang nasa bloodstream, 1/3 lang ang nasa spleen. Kapag napagbaligtad natin to, nagkakaroon nga tayo ng abnormal pooling. And this exchange of values nangyayari in these two conditions. Pag lumaki ang spleen, mas maraming storage area for platelet. Kapag hypersplenism naman, overactive, so kain siya ng kain ng platelet sa loob. So, therefore, nagiging baligtad yung ratio. So, one of the weird phenomenon that is happening in pseudothrombocytopenia is platelet satellitism. Your platelet tends to surround the neutrophil, ang tinatawag natin rosetting. No? Parang they form a rosette form or parang floweret formation. Okay? Paano to nangyayari? Ang blood sample mo ay ginamitan mo ng EDTA preservative. And sometimes, no, EDTA tends to initiate IgG coating of your platelets, and this coating will bind to the receptors found in your WBC. Okay? Madikit, so nagkakaroon ng parang madikit na sensation yung platelet towards the IgG, and these two complexes nagiging madikit ulit towards the WBC's membrane, lalong-lalo na sa mga neutrophils. Okay? So, anong gagawin mo para ma-prevent natin yung ganitong type of phenomenon? You recollect na lang using sodium citrate, which is okay pa rin naman. Next naman to our quantitative problem is thrombocytosis. Cytosis means increase or predominance of thrombocyte or platelet. So in RODAX, ang operational definition is that the platelet count must be over the upper limit of 150 times 10 to the 9 power per liter of blood. So, yan yung sa RODAX. Okay, mamaya makikita nyo, iba naman ang WHO criteria. Pero, punta muna tayo sa etiology. So, we have two types of thrombocytosis. We have primary thrombocytosis and secondary or reactive thrombocytosis. So, anong difference nila? The cause. Okay? In primary thrombocytosis, ang main cause niyan is the bone marrow itself. Meron tayong problema mismo sa bone marrow. So therefore, kahit mababa ang levels or normal ang levels ng thrombopoietin mo, which is the hormone signaling for thrombocyte production, overacting pa rin si bone marrow to produce thrombocyte. Even kahit zero na lang ang thrombopoietin mo, gumagana pa rin or nagpo-produce pa rin ng maraming thrombocytes si bone marrow. And this is the primary thrombocytosis. This is also seen in one of the myelodysplastic syndrome called essential thrombocythemia. Sa secondary or reactive thrombocytosis naman, may nangyari which causes your bone marrow to produce a lot of thrombocyte. And one of the signals is that there is a high levels of thrombopoietin, which happen in your blood malignancies. And in other causes naman, normal ang thrombopoietin mo, but still madami kang thrombocyte. So, meron tayong abnormal pooling in splenectomy. So, hindi na, ano ang ibig sabihin ng splenectomy? It is a surgical removal of your spleen. So, therefore, wala na yung 2/3, 1/3 ratio natin. Lahat ngayon ng thrombocyte mo nasa bloodstream mo. So, 100% nasa bloodstream. So, therefore, meron kang mataas na platelet count, which is an example of a secondary thrombocytosis. So, balikan natin si primary thrombocytosis, or also known as essential thrombocythemia or essential thrombocytosis. The main cause or genetic mutation in this type of problem is there is an alteration of hematopoietic cells. Ang mga cells mo ngayon is overly sensitive to thrombopoietin even in small amounts. Kaya in laboratory, the expected results are as follows. Madami kang platelet count pero low to normal ang thrombopoietin mo. Next is the qualitative platelet disorder naman tayo. Last na, kapit lang tayo guys. Okay? So, qualitative platelet disorder, also known as thrombocythemia or thrombocytopathy. So, ginroup ko sila into 3. So, we have disorders of platelet adhesion, disorder of platelet aggregation, and disorder of platelet secretion. Unahin natin itong dalawang ito dahil medyo nakakalito sila in terms of aggregometry. So take note, this table is one of the board exam must know. So kung may time kayo, gawa na kayo ng Manila paper nyo na may ganitong table. Next syndrome is Chiajak-Higashi syndrome. Again, it involves abnormal fusion of granules. So not only granules of your platelets, but also the granules of your granulocytes in WBCs, lalo-lalo yung mga neutrophil, eosinophil, and basophil. So lahat ng cell na which contains granules, apektado ng Chiajak-Higashi syndrome. Lastly, your Wiskott-Aldrich syndrome. So, tandaan natin, no? Not only it affects the platelet count, it also affects the platelet function. No? Lalong-lalo na yung dense granules natin. Okay? So, meron tayong quantitative, qualitative problem in Wiskott-Aldrich syndrome. Again, what are the triad of symptoms of Wiskott-Aldrich syndrome? We have mnemonics. T for thrombocytopenia, I for immunodeficiency, and E for eczema. And lastly, one of the dreaded drugs or medication which causes platelet dysfunction is aspirin. Aspirin causes irreversible inhibition of your enzyme called cyclooxygenase. So, magsingit lang ako ng another diagram to picture out the effects of aspirin. So, aspirin again inhibits your cyclooxygenase. So, cyclooxygenase, ang ating naming dito is COX, no? We have two types, COX-1 and COX-2. COX-1 ang specific for your thromboxane A2. And hindi lang COX-1 ang naapektuhan niya, no? Yung aspirin also targets your COX-2. So, ang dami niyang na-prevent or na-inhibit na mga bodily function. So, madaming effects or bad effects ang aspirin. Not only for the function of the platelet, but also the following, your gastrointestinal tract function, kidneys, yung mga yan. Okay? So, tips for reviewing. No? Sobrang dami ng information na narinig nyo kanina. So, try nyo mag-print ng blank handout and try to fill out the missing information. Pag hindi nyo matandaan, no, you have to revisit, no, yung video or yung ating complete handout. So that is the part 1 of our short course. You may take a break or you may proceed with the next video.